recording in progress. Raw, yeah.
All right, and we are back with another Raw reaction. This show was in Pittsburgh, I believe. It was the first show back from the Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia. Quick turnaround, by the way. They had SmackDown Friday night, and then Night of Champions Saturday night, and then they flew out and had Raw on Monday. So Saudi Arabia to Pittsburgh from Saturday to Monday.
But they do gain a day. Well, not a day, but they gain some
morning.
hours.
they gain the flight time back, I think, basically. And then they also filmed SmackDown on Monday night after Raw. They started Raw early on purpose, and then they filmed SmackDown. Now, I think they're going to give some of the talent time off for 4th of July holiday.
Oh, that makes sense.
Now they get a nice week off probably after the trip to Saudi Arabia as well. A chance to recharge their batteries, fuel up. It's a busy schedule, folks.
Oh, yeah.
And these guys are all, and girls, are all doing non-taped events on the weekends and other shows elsewhere, dark matches as they're called.
There's always something happening.
There is, but there was a lot of fallout from Night of Champions that we were excited to see on this episode of Raw. So without further ado, Nika, let's get right into it. And the show kicked off, I should say, with Mommy herself coming out to the ring. It was Rhea Ripley, fresh off of her street fight victory over Raquel Rodriguez in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh. And I don't really know why she came out, because IYO SKY's music hit pretty quickly after she took the mic, and she came down and challenged Rhea Ripley to a match at Evolution, which is the all-women's event we've been talking about here for the past couple months since WrestleMania, and since we learned that it was going to be happening. I think that was maybe after Backlash when we first heard about it. But anyways, Evolution is an all-women's WWE event that is going down on July 13th. The day before, there is an NXT All-American Bash, and there's also a Saturday night main event. So there's like all-day wrestling on Saturday, July 12th, and then there's an all-women's event all day on July 13th. And this is all happening in Atlanta, Georgia. So go get your tickets if you haven't already, Atlanta.
Nice.
Yes, but this is going to be your first big matchup for Evolution for the all-women's event. It is IYO SKY, and look at this. She is putting up the Women's World Championship belt on the line. She wants Rhea Ripley in the ring. I got to admit, I wouldn't want Rhea Ripley.
No?
I think I would say like, can I have someone else instead? Like,
Well, they try to make it interesting, and it is an interesting fight because of the different body size of those two contenders.
it's definitely going to be like David versus Goliath feeling a little bit, speed versus muscle, like all the age-old arguments.
It reminds
What's
me
better?
reminds me of Asuka fighting Jade a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. You're going to have those conflicting styles. And so I
It
think,
might be interesting.
yeah, we're not going to do any predictions here on this show, but wanted to make this announcement that this match was happening, and I'm excited for it, you know. And I wouldn't be surprised if Rhea Ripley does win, because there's a trip to Australia coming up soon and whatnot, but I got to think about it a little bit more, and we'll be back with our official predictions shortly. But in the meantime,
We got to consult our crystal balls.
in the meantime, look at this, Nika. The Tag Team Championship belts exchanged hands on Raw. We had a title change.
Woo.
It was Finn Bálor and JD McDonagh defeating the New Day to win the World Tag Team titles. And of course, Finn and JD are the Judgment Day. So the titles are now in the hands of the Judgment Day.
All titles.
And the women's tag team titles, as we know, are also with the Judgment Day. So they're just tag teaming it all out. Now, we do know Liv Morgan has had a shoulder injury. So upon winning the titles, Finn and JD went and spoke to the Raw general manager, and they asked if it was possible for Roxanne Perez to take Liv Morgan's place as the tag team champion. And well, it was, Nika. And you can see in the photo here, the Judgment Day celebrating all that gold. There are the tag team championship belts, and the women's and the men's, and of course the men's Intercontinental Championship belt. Now, the only one that doesn't look happy in this picture is Dominic Mysterio, Dirty Dom in the back, and you just got to wonder what's going through his head here as Liv Morgan's tag team championship belt is now on the waist of, I guess, I don't want to call her an arch rival or anything, but someone that she's not so keen on having in the Judgment Day organization, at least before her injury.
Raquel doesn't look very enthusiastic as
All
well.
right, that's fair. But Roxanne and Finn are definitely happy.
They are grinning.
They are grinning, and you can see he's even got his hand like out gestured, like, look at her.
Look at her.
Yeah. Finn Balor reposted it and said, "We miss you. You only live once." And look, Finn, I got to be honest. I wouldn't be drawing any attention to myself with this unless you are deliberately trying to put salt into the wound of Liv Morgan right now.
Drama sells.
Drama does sell, and misery loves company. So we'll see how Liv comes back and receives this news. But Dirty Dom, I would be careful if I were you, man. I don't know if you should have agreed to this, because Finn did offer everyone a chance to vote. And Dirty Dom reluctantly agreed because he didn't feel like he had another choice. But you always got another choice, Dom. You always got another choice. While Roxanne was gifted Liv's belt, it was also decided that these belts need to be put on the line, and they need to earn the right to keep them, is how it was put. And there is going to be another Evolution match for these tag team titles, and it is going to be a fatal 4-way tag team championship match. Wow. We just had 4 fatal 4-way matches in both the King of the Ring tournament and the Queen of the Ring tournament leading up to Night of Champions. Now we get a women's tag team championship fatal 4-way match. That's 8 women total in the ring. And oh, by the way, there's no disqualifications or anything like that. So I guess more people could come down and interfere in this matchup, and nobody would blink twice.
Nice.
But there is going to be a women's tag team match from Raw, a team chosen from Raw, a women's tag team chosen from SmackDown, and also a women's tag team chosen from NXT. So a lot of representation for the other 3 teams to be announced. Stay tuned here. We will be updating you as soon as we know who these opponents are going to be. No spoilers, everybody. No spoilers.
Well, let us know what you think.
But I do think one of the teams is going to get announced on SmackDown that's already been taped. So that's why I say no spoilers. No spoilers in the comments. You hear me? But I'm excited for this matchup, and I'm guessing they're going to lose the belts here. That's just a early hunch. I'll be back later with our official predictions, as we said. So hold that thought as we turn the page, because they also announced that there's going to be a battle royale, and the winner of this women's battle royale will earn a championship match at Clash in Paris, which is happening at the end of August, I believe, in Paris. So stay tuned for all that excitement. I love all these events and matches happening and foreshadowing. It just allows time for the drama to fester and build leading up to the event, and we love that here at the Kanika Sports Show.
Definitely.
And, by the way, let's keep it on Evolution for a second, because Triple H also posted the official poster for Evolution. It says, "Honoring the Trailblazers and inspiring the next generation, WWE Evolution streams live from Atlanta's State Farm Arena July 13th at 7 p.m. So there you have it. Peacock, Netflix, maybe it's Maybelline is the sponsor, and Sunday, July 13th at 4 p.m. Pacific. I'm glad it's not a morning event like some of the Sunday WWE events have been, and I'm glad they're getting their own Sunday primetime slot here. It's a good date. Baseball is going to be going on the All-Star break that day, so there's not going to be a Sunday night baseball game in all likelihood. So they should have a fairly easy no basketball, no hockey, no football, no opponents.
All eyeballs will be on Evolution.
Indeed. So tune in if you're around, and we can see all of the current WWE talent on the poster. I see Asuka, I see Tiffy Time, I see Naomi. And I see Becky Lynch, of course, Rhea Ripley, and Bianca Belair in the middle. The Queen, Charlotte Flair. And
I see Jade in there.
I also see Trish Stratus, everybody, with her pink cowboy hat on. There's a lot more people there. Jade, Roxanne, Alexa Bliss. It's
a lot of women.
Zelina, lots of women going on. And it looks like that back row might have some more of the all-time greats that they were talking about, or that Triple H was saying, the Trailblazers.
That's coming up.
It is coming up, and I'm excited about it. But we got to get back to Raw, Nika, because Gunther came out to the ring, but he didn't last very long. He was talking smack to Goldberg. Now, Goldberg did not come out. Seth Rollins came out. Seth freaking Rollins. And he finally got back on the mic. He did also before Night of Champions, but he was back talking trash here to Gunther, which was a little bit interesting because didn't really have him eyeing up Gunther. But CM Punk came down. He's angry right now with Seth Rollins because of what happened at Night of Champions. Obviously, Seth Rollins screwed him out of getting victory, and then he bashed him in the head with that Money in the Bank briefcase. As you can see, they got into a big, wild fight here, and Seth kind of ducked out and was trying to make his way out through the crowd, where he was ceremoniously greeted by none other than LA Knight. LA Knight and him got into a bit of a brawl here, and it spilled into the actual hallway of the arena, and the fans were there watching. It was pre-blocked off, it looked like, but a cool experience for those fans nonetheless to get to be up close and personal to Seth and to LA Knight. Yeah. And because of this, we're getting a matchup, Nika. Yeah. Saturday night main event, the day before Evolution, we get LA Knight versus Seth freaking Rollins in a showdown. Now, there's nothing on the line here, but there is some bad blood and some animosity to resolve. And so maybe some of that will get resolved, maybe not. I'm going to go with the latter. I'm going to say it's not all going to get quite resolved.
No, but this will be the first fight we're going to see Seth Rollins
in a
while.
Since Money in the Bank, I think, which it'll be a couple months or a month and a half.
Yeah, okay. Because LA Knight has been fighting, but not Seth.
Indeed. And Seth might need a tune-up match before SummerSlam.
That's true.
Just saying. He does have that briefcase. He can join SummerSlam if he wants to.
Must be nice.
Well, we'll see if the writers want him to. In the meantime, Raw rolling right along here. We finally got a Rusev versus Sheamus matchup, and Rusev won. This match didn't do a lot for me, and it's just card filler right now. I know there's a lot of Sheamus fans out there. No offense to anybody. When all the other stuff's going on, this doesn't really move the needle for me.
Yeah.
This was a transitional episode. Exactly. They wanted to get those Evolution events out and announced that we went through, and to also start to beef up the Saturday night main event with Seth and LA Knight, and
a lot of promos.
Yeah, these characters were not in Saudi Arabia. They weren't featured in the programming either on SmackDown or in the Night of Champions. They're to me just lower characters on the roster. It's fine, we'll see if something can come of them more substantial, but right now it is what it is.
Yeah.
But the next match was not. The next match was interesting in its own right. It was Bayley versus Lyra Valkyria, and we called this, Nika. We were basically saying these two are going to have to settle what happened the previous week, where Bayley was taking on Becky Lynch for the Intercontinental Women's Championship. And Lyra came down and basically interfered in her match and cost her the belt. And they got into another argument backstage when Bayley was talking to one of the ring reporters about it. And shortly after that, they got into this argument. They were scheduled for a match. And the winner was going to become the new #1 contender for a matchup with Becky Lynch. Or I guess a rematch for both of them at this point, because they both have lost to Becky in the last month. So, of course, this match ended in a no contest because they wound up pinning each other at exactly the same time. And if you're wondering how that works, well, it's hard to explain. Basically, yeah, the person pinning the other person, their shoulders were both on the mat at the same time. So it was a double 3 count on both of them and no winner. So we still don't have a #1 contender now for the Women's Intercontinental Championship heading into Evolution. Do you think they're going to resolve this before then, Nika?
No.
Do you think it's going to become a 3-way matchup at Evolution for the I kind of think that's the direction they're going to go to.
It looks like a setup for that right now with the no draw winner.
I think that favors Becky Lynch, to be honest, because the enemy of my enemy is my friend, but only until they interfere in your match.
Sure, but Becky just won that belt, so I don't think she will lose it so quickly. But again, that belt might be changing hands a lot quicker than any other belts.
True. Well, we'll wait and see what happens, and we'll be back with our predictions. We got to figure out if there's going to be even a match first. So
that's true.
Nothing's scheduled yet, but that's just a early prediction on our part.
It might change.
Hey, Nika, did you see this? Chad Gable announced his injury on Raw earlier in the night, and then this dude showed up. Now, look,
Does he look a little taller?
He does look a little taller.
Okay.
I'm kind of wondering who that is underneath the mask, and if they're gonna take the whole El Grande Americano character in a different direction, where the person underneath the mask will be changing a lot.
Oh,
Maybe that will be something that will get done, and like it'll keep people guessing about who's the real El Grande Americano.
I like it.
Will the real El Grande please stand up? Please stand up. Please stand up. I don't think that's the real El Grande Americano. But they're all looking at him a little funky. That's a perfect screen grab.
Yeah. They probably cannot believe who it is either.
Probably not. All right. Well, that just left one matchup left for the night, Nika, and it was the main event, and it was Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed defeating Sami Zayn and Penta. No surprise there.
Cool shot.
It was a cool shot, and Penta is quickly rising, I feel like, in WWE circles. He got to be featured in the Night of Champions main event when he came down and interfered with, first Seth Rollins came down and interfered in John Cena and CM Punk's match, and then, of course, Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed were with him, and that left Sami Zayn and Penta to come and break up their party at Night of Champions. Well, they got a reward of a matchup against each other. Now, Sami Zayn and Penta did lose this match. No surprise there. I think there was some interference, but Jey Uso, of course, came down and rescued them at the end of the show. And this was Uso's first appearance since the previous week on Raw. He apparently did not maybe even make the trip to Saudi Arabia that we know of, because he was not on any of the weekend's programming. But he was back on Raw, saving the day like Jay does, I should say. And yeah, that's where things left on this episode of Monday Night Raw. And where do you think this is all heading, Nika?
It's some kind of feud inside the bloodline, for sure. And
there's a lot going on, and I feel like Seth is getting involved with everybody, whether it's LA Knight, CM Punk, Jey Uso, and Cody Rhodes. It just nobody's off limits for Seth. He's sprinkling it around. These two, Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, seem to got beef with everybody. One week they're fighting Sami Zayn and Jey Uso. This week they're fighting Sami Zayn and Penta. Is this all building to some big Survivor Series matchup between these guys? Is that where this feud is going to get settled? The War Games? Live from Petco Park, if you haven't heard, by the way. Coming to you from San Diego.
I think you might be onto something with that Survival Series. They try to recruit as many players to their corners before the Survivor Series.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like it could be coming to a head there. And you could easily see Jimmy Uso maybe joining Jey Uso and Sammy and Penta.
Yeah.
And forming a team against somebody else and joining Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. This was a pretty good episode of Raw for coming back from the overseas trip and just getting back into the swing of things. I was really happy to see the announced matches. I think I'm excited for the Rhea Ripley and IYO SKY matchup at Evolution, and I'm excited for the women's tag team belts to finally get some action, because since Liv Morgan and Raquel won those belts the day after WrestleMania, I believe, it's been dark. They haven't had a match, and then Liv gets hurt, and so this is why they're having to do this matchup. But overall, yeah, it was a pretty good episode of Raw and enjoyed our time with it. Well, that is going to wrap it up for this Raw reaction, but let us know what you thought about Raw in the comments below. Were you a fan of this episode, or were you giving it a thumbs down after the Saudi Arabia trip?
And how many people missed it because of the move?
And did you get wind of the time change or the time difference? Did you know that it was happening 3 hours earlier this week, or were you late to the party and then oops? Did you get anything spoiled for you online ahead of time by accident? Tell us your stories. We love hearing about that stuff. And if any of those comments are good enough, we will talk about them on the next show, everybody.